Can we say like the Hallmark meet cute story of how you two met?
It's not that cute. I was sitting in a session for a program, the Real World Black Entrepreneurship Program, and Millie was our speaker, and she started talking about how she became a casting director, and I was just like, I like this woman.
Yes.
And I think midway through her conversation, she did actually ask us about ourselves. So we were talking about what our goals were, and she was like, hey, I think I might have something for you. And I was like, okay, I'm emailing her right as this thing ends. So I made sure to reach out to her and also tell my program coordinator that I wanted her to be my mentor. And the rest is history.
Yeah,
I love it.
and you know what's great? What's interesting too is when they approached me to be a mentor, I was like, I have no right. I should never be a mentor. Never. I am loud. I have no filter. I am obnoxious. I am ignorant. I should not be mentoring. Well, no, and it's funny because I went in there going in the land of no. Like, I have no right to be mentoring somebody. Like, I am still learning on my own. And, you know, my other problem too is I felt like, what if I don't have another job? What if I have nothing to show her?
Right.
What if, like, we're not going to have practical experience? And, you know, she's just going to see that I'm this loud, obnoxious person, you know? And what was great was, you know, you sit there and you go, as a woman, like, I was blessed to be mentored under Deirdre Bowen. And to this day, she's still a mentor. And anytime I have a question, I can go to Deirdre and ask, you know, my question. And, you know, I feel really blessed too because my learning curve was really steep with her. I mean, it was almost a 3-year learning curve and she never fired me. And, you know, that's the one thing where I'm always like, woman could have fired me so hard, so many times. There was no shortage of, you need to get out of this office and now. Going into an audition room with Deirdre Bowen is like a masterclass in acting. If you get a chance to be redirected by her, it's exquisite. It's nuanced. It's, you're playing. It's collaborative in that room. And I really love that. And I want to be able to provide that. And I think, you know, that's the one thing that I think I was taught incredibly well was to make sure you allow the actor to be able to play and to feel safe in that room. Ooh. And, you know, because again, you're battling against the nerves, right? I get it. You're going into a room with the Deirdre Bowen. She's the grande dame. I mean, if anybody, like, she's probably she's queen bee of casting in this country. So
I'm picturing like a Mean Girls Queen Bee vibe and she's just there.
Oh yeah, no, she can be very nurturing. She can be absolutely nurturing. And I mean, there are other times where if you're not giving her what she needs, she's going to slap you down hard.
Well, you're paying money for the session. I get it.
Yeah. I always talk about how, you know, for me, I'm like, it's true. Like, there aren't that many, like across Canada, there are not that many casting directors of color in the industry as a whole. Like, when you think about, there are many casting directors and then only a very small percentage of them are people of color. And then I was like, how do I not raise another woman of color to become a casting director when we seem to have a problem?
Yeah.
Especially I would say in Toronto. I mean, as much as I've worked for many of the casting directors in this town, and I have learned a lot from each of them. I mean, that's a nice thing is each experience I walked away with some type of like a lesson, whether it be good, bad. But I learned, and I think I became a better casting director for it. You know, like every time they fired me, I was like, okay, you know, you cry, you're like, my life is over, I'm never going to cast again. And then I managed to pick myself up and go, oh my God, what did I just learn from that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And so in a way, that's kind of great too. So I go, you know what, we just need more casting directors out there. We need casting directors that are prepared to tell stories that we don't necessarily know and educate. You know, also in that, what was interesting was one of Rachel's peers in that program, he was from the LGBT community. Mm. And he spoke about how important it was for him to see people from that community being represented. Right. And he said, you know, I'm so like, and then he talked a little bit about how he was angry that, casting directors didn't know. They didn't know enough about like how important, like specific, the specific representation and the specific being able to tell the stories authentically. And I said, and I was just like, I honestly don't know. Like, I have not had to cast many LGBTQ roles, but I said, I also wouldn't know. I don't know. There's, again, it's like, even in the Black community, there's different nuances and there are different asks and different demographics and very different specifics. So same thing in the LGBTQ community where I go, I don't know. Like, I wouldn't even know how to begin. And usually, if a project comes to me that is LGBTQ plus, I always do that. Okay, first, have you gone to the few casting directors that do identify first?
Right.
Because again, I don't ever want to take a job away from somebody that actually could tell that story. Again, it's such a learning curve, and I don't want to be ignorant to it.
And that's the thing, though, Millie. Like, if you're willing to learn, I don't think that's a bad thing. Like, your ignorance isn't necessarily a strike against you, because if you're willing to learn, some producers will work with you and be like, okay, well, even if you have to like consult with the writer once before you, like, at the beginning of your project. I think there's so many ways to get around that. But what I do like want to amplify in what you just said is that, yes, every community, yours, mine, other communities, they all have nuances. And if a casting director is just open to the fact that those exist, and it's not a monolith, it's not just, oh, I'm going to look at this face and say, this person is this, then I think we'll be in a better place moving forward to tell stories tell stories authentically. I was going to say the way that we want to, but I'm not saying everybody wants to tell them authentically, because some people don't, but to tell stories authentically. Some people don't care, Robyn. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, I get that. I'm also doing intermission for myself out of the sun.
Yeah.
Gosh darn window chats. Like, I'm burning. No, but and that's the thing too, right? It depends on how important it is to production to be authentic. So, but the fact that you're going out of your way to try your best to be authentic. If you don't know something, I'm just going to bring it back to asking questions. I feel like people are so scared to ask questions now. They don't want to ask the wrong question because, if they ask the wrong question, next thing you know, it's on social media and they're canceled. Oh God. But it's so important to make sure you're getting that story correctly. And I wish people would be more comfortable, like, accepting that they don't know everything and being willing to learn.
Yeah. And I think sorry to continue your story, Mill, like in that same breath, everyone in my program, like there weren't a lot of us, but all of us in the program after Millie spoke to us, we were like, oh, that's a real one. You know what I mean? Because all the other casting directors that came and spoke to us, they gave us something, but just as a person being authentic, it felt like they were holding back. Sorry, they're going to see this. I don't care.
No, you know what? And I think everyone responds to people differently too, right? No, and that's why there's...
Because what I get at, that same person, although Millie said, I don't know any, like, honestly said, I do not know how to the specifics of the LGBTQ community. That was, the person didn't take it as a slight. They were like, okay, they appreciated what I'm saying. They appreciated the fact that she was open to say that. So people pretending that like they know things. You get what I'm saying? Like, and that they're this big expert on everything in life doesn't do a story any justice. Like you said, stop being afraid to ask questions. I love to ask questions because I don't know anything.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, hey, I have a lot of experience in production outside of casting, but I'm still asking questions because I want to learn more. So being experienced, I was going to say old, being experienced shouldn't stop you from, I was thinking of a specific old casting director, like being experienced in casting doesn't mean you no longer learn, you no longer ask questions, right?
Well, I mean, that's what you hope is the case, right? I think with anything in life, not just casting, like there are some people that are willing to learn and grow, and other people that are, set in their ways in a sense, and that is their choice. I personally think it's unfortunate, but everyone can choose to be the way they want to be. I'm trying to be politically correct with this response in case we don't edit it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say the other.
I'm trying to hold it back, but anyway.
No, and that's fair. I know. I'm okay. I'm
No,
being
we're
a
not
neutral
going to hold.
host.
I don't think we
That's
should
fair.
hold back on this. I was going to also say though, what's interesting too about the mentorship program that Rachel, because Rachel ended up becoming the mentee. For me, I remember I needed to have a conversation with Rachel before I even agreed. It was okay, Rachel, we're gonna have a Zoom conversation. And I remember being so afraid to sort of tell her what my fears were about this. And I was like, what if I microaggression you? What if I say something that's so offensive to you? What if I because again, I don't have a filter. And I remember thinking, how can I mentor her when I am just in my own, because again, when I'm in my session room or when I'm auditioning, I mean, again, to the actors, I always want to be very politically correct and I don't want to offend or hurt. But again, ultimately for me, I want them to be better. So yeah. I want to get a good performance out of them. So, but not everybody understands that. Not everybody understands that that's, or maybe not everybody, or maybe they misunderstand what I'm saying, or it's just, yeah, it comes across as offensive. So that's something that I needed to communicate with Rachel at the very beginning before we did this, or before she was going to work with me for X amount of months, because I was just it's important for me to know that I only want great things for you. And yeah. I want to teach you, but I don't know if my teaching
style
methods or my style is appropriate. And, hopefully I will be politically correct. And that's something that at least I wanted her to know coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of that, look, again, I'm not here to just sort of berate you and, but I tend to be a bit tough lovey, and I tend, I'm one of those people that if I'm not in a good mood, or if
you'll know about it.
Yeah, you will know. So
no, but
yeah,
she has yet to offend me, so that's good.
Yeah, and it just had to be communicated, and I think that was important.
I thought she didn't want to do it. I thought it was me. I was like, let me send her my resume so she can see that I've done things.
You've done stuff, yeah.
Skill, So I didn't understand that she was worried about herself. I thought she was I don't know, I'm gonna let this person into my world. Because let me tell you, Robyn, that's the thing that stopped me from pursuing casting earlier. Because I have been dreaming of doing this since 2019. And I never really pursued it until this program, in terms of trying to do it full time. Because when I did my research on the industry, I was oh, so every casting director has one assistant or two assistants, unless they're commercial casting, they have a bevy of assistants, right? So I was how am I going to penetrate that? Especially seeing every website I went to was a white woman and her white woman assistant. You know what I mean? So it was just I don't think casting in Toronto is for me. So I started doing little things within my own community that weren't necessarily just in Toronto. So working with Caribbean filmmakers. And I was doing that kind of part-time, and I still didn't know if that was sustainable to do that full-time. So it's a big deal. Having someone open up their shop to me, that's a huge deal, knowing how tight the community, the casting world kind of is. Not kind of, it is.
It is. And I just love, honestly, I said, as soon as I saw you two working together, I just smiled because I go, I don't know what's happening here, but it's beautiful. I just love the yin and yang. It was so fun for me to watch. And that's like you're saying, there's a white casting director and a white girl assistant, whatnot. I think it's hard because I know I always joke, I'm a one-woman team my whole life, whatever. But I do genuinely think it's hard to find people that mesh with different personalities. So I think, you know what, if this is your job and you mesh with a certain personality, that's understandable. Like, you have to make whatever work environment works for you. But the fact that you guys found each other and are putting together projects and creating stuff and doing such interesting projects, and like, just, I liked that you challenged yourself, Millie, with the non-union project. I'm very proud of you. But you're building something, and I commend you for it, because you're right. There isn't a lot of BIPOC casting directors, but I like to think you're paving the way. And that's why you made the window chats with ROBYN now.
Yeah, no, I mean,
there's a select list. Okay.
You know, I always think about someone like Jean-Yoon, who paved the way and burned so many bridges so that the rest of the community could just soar. And I love that about her. Like, I love that she speaks her mind and she speaks her truth, and
right.
You know, yeah, there's something really extraordinary. I mean, again, she's fierce, and she's someone that I really admire in terms of the way she's built her career, because, again, at the end of the day, there were some people that she will never be able to work with again, and she knows it, and she talks about it, and I can see where it's definitely, it hurts her, but I also love that, you know, I don't know that she'll ever appreciate what she did for the actors, the artists, the BIPOC artists, especially the Asian ones, for sure. So, yeah.
But you know what, Millie, you keep saying that you're getting fired and you're abrasive and you're like just putting yourself down, and I hate that about you, because
Same.
it really bothers me. Female empowerment, all the snaps, but I think you see yourself in a worse light than others do, and I think your honesty is appreciated, because I don't want someone kind of tiptoeing around me. I just want to know what's the issue. Amazing, now we can work from there. Because I'm just exhausted with all the niceties of, here's the pleasantries. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm tired. What is the actual issue? And then we go from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
People are definitely afraid of being honest, so it's a plus. And that was the thing that everyone liked about you in our session. They were just like, she real. That's what I'm saying. She's a real one.
She's real. She is real.
I know, but there are also times where, like, for example, my fear, I was always like, don't ask questions that you don't want to know the answers to.
Ooh.
You know, like, I always think about, there are times where I
thing.
want feedback from Deirdre, and I'm almost afraid to know what that feedback is, because I worry that I know. And it's almost, you know, and I don't, you know, secretly I think I know what it is. I mean, like, I'm my own worst enemy, so, but God, to have, like, someone that you really admire and respect tell you that you're just, like, you know.
No
like,
one can
you know, it's funny.
on you than you are on yourself. I'm telling you.
Well, you know what's funny is I've now enlisted a business mentor, somebody who is a like business acumen, and he is, you know, he comes from a background of marketing, and he's very good at what he does. He's one of the best in his field, and I sort of pursued him because I was like, I can't lose this opportunity, and. You know, we were debriefing over the fact that I had that interview, that big casting job interview, and at the end of the day, I sort of blew it. I sort of didn't say what I should have said. Like, I think I was too honest. And even she had said, the casting director had said, yeah, you're a little too honest. But what was interesting about that was he said, he didn't say, like, he said, so what have we learned from this? And I love that it was, oh, okay. Because he goes, you know that I wouldn't have hired you either. I was like, I know. But he goes, okay, what did we learn? What have we learned that we can, you know, sort of going forward, how can we help you help yourself? And you know, and so that we don't repeat that. And I just thought, oh. Like, and again, part of what I like about him is that, again, he's not in our business he's not a casting director.
And there's so many similarities. I know we're not talking about actors, but I intentionally don't want to right now, because there's so many similarities to what casting directors are going through that actors don't know about. And actors are beating themselves up. Oh, why did I do this take? Why did I submit this one? Why did I say this in the room? X, Y, and Z. So it's just, everyone is their own worst enemy, no matter where you are in the industry.
But you know what? I often think that being a casting director is no different than being an actor. Yeah. You're only as good as the last job you did. We have to go in for job interviews. You have to hustle. I mean, again, it's not nearly as vulnerable as what a performer does when, a performer has to come in and become something, performance. I mean, again, I would never say that, but I always go, ideally I'm hustling just as hard as an actor is hustling. I think for me, if anything, I always do as a casting director, what can I do to become a better casting director? Like in terms of my own skills, how, I always say to actors, you need to be coaching, you need to watch film and television, you need to do this, you need to read, you need to this, and this. That's great. Because again, that is something that's very tangible for you. You can go take a class. You can go and watch, you can watch, film and TV. You can watch YouTube videos about acting and actors give master classes, etc. But I'm like, how does a casting director hone their skills, hone their chops? And so for me, one of them was, there's an acting coach that I really adore and admire. So for me, I went to him and I said, and I remember sitting just going, I'm going to audit your class. It's important for me to just sit in and I want to hear how you're speaking to the actors, because sometimes I feel like I'm not speaking to them well, or I'm not, how can I be better at getting a performance? Because again, I'm not an actor. I've never trained as an actor. So for me, it's how do I get a performer? How do I how do I speak actor? How do I, because again, some of my direction is very not playable. I remember, I was working for a casting director at the time, and this really wonderful working actor came in to audition, and I was giving her direction, and the direction was taking a little bit long. Like, I was like, do I even know what I'm saying? Like, am I speaking out of my ass? What's happening? And I remember she, I don't even know that she took the note. I think she just did something different, so, which is fine. I think ultimately, when you think about a direction, it's just do something different or give us something different, or can you take direction? Can you hear what I'm saying? But what was interesting was she went back to her agent and she told the agent that I did not give her good direction. And then the agent went to my boss, and the boss was like, what happened with that actor? And I was like, yeah, I just couldn't, I wasn't coherent. I couldn't tell her what I really wanted. And it just became a jumble of thoughts. And it became like a 5-minute sort of direction when it really could have been just 2 words. And it was like, and I always think about that actor every time she comes into my room, because I'm like, oh my God, do you think I'm just like, do you think I'm horrible? Do you think I'm like, yeah. I mean, the nice thing is she's gone on to be very successful, but I also go, holy crap, I don't want to,
All I can think of, at least that actor knew that the direction was confusing, because all I can think of is the number of actors that would have gotten that direction, left the room and cried, being, I didn't understand Millie's 5-minute direction. I'm a failure. I'm giving up acting, So it's very interesting to know that you go, no, it wasn't the best direction, versus what actors would perceive as, oh my God, why didn't I understand this direction? What's wrong with me? I need to take more classes. It's the communication component that I'm fascinated by.